the French model account. By the time I saw what I had done, everyone had seen it and they knew my pictures were photoshopped. I was devastated. My account lost followers immediately and people were making fun of me. Even everyone at school kept talking about it. After school, I was miserable, so I went to the park to calm myself down. I was sitting under my favorite tree when I noticed Belinda walking into the park. I quickly hid behind the trunk so she wouldn't see me, and then noticed her walking towards a boy. Ugh, I rolled my eyes. They kissed and then sat down on a bench. Pretty soon they were laughing like hyenas. I wanted to know what they were laughing about, so I got closer. To my horror, they were talking about me. Well, the other me. But me. Belinda was telling him about the influencer who had been her competition. She was so happy to have that girl out of her way. The guy said he was happy for her and kept laughing at how stupid I was. I wanted to punch him. And then he said something that left me shook. He said, I actually know the girl who has that account. I was running the Photoshop account with her. Oh my God. I almost passed out. Churritos was Belinda's boyfriend? What the? He gave Belinda a kiss and said, not like you, babe. I mean, sure, your photos aren't real, but at least it's your face. And Belinda looked at him with the biggest puppy eyes and said she was so grateful that my Photoshop account had brought them together. I wanted to puke. It was time to get out, but I should have known the universe was set against me because just as I was about to leave, Churrito said something that ruined my life. He had hacked the French model account when I refused to see him and had found out that I was using someone else's face. He added that he had traced me back to Belinda's school. I gasped. Please don't say it. Please don't say it. Belinda was all ears. No way, she said. Tell me who. Then in the worst 2 seconds of my life, I heard Churritos say my name. For a second, Belinda was silent. The whole world was silent for a minute. And then she roared with laughter. I wanted to die. How could Churritos do this to me? Belinda obviously spared no time in telling everyone that I was behind the fake French model profile. I instantly became the school's laughingstock, but at least my parents didn't know anything about it. Things were really terrible at school. One time my math teacher commented I should waste less time on Instagram and focus on studies. Everyone laughed. The only person who didn't was geeky little Freddy. He just looked at me and his eyes showed empathy from behind his thick glasses. However, I couldn't bear the laughs, and I was humiliated, and furious, and heartbroken. Why was this happening to me? I decided I wanted to take revenge on Belinda and Churritos. I was going to do something wicked to them. I wanted to get rich and flaunt my money in their faces, and I knew just how to do it. I made a third new account, hired a different photo editor, and got to work immediately. Thanks to my already established connections, I knew where to begin. I started getting requests like crazy, and soon I had built quite a profile once again. I was back in business, all by myself. More money for me. Then I set up a fake account of another pretty girl, keeping it as secret as possible. From there, I messaged Churritos one day. He replied immediately, the cheater. I started flirting with him and told him he was the cutest boy I had ever seen. Like I didn't know that was a fake profile. He started flirting back with me almost immediately. When I asked him if he was dating anyone, he said no. I laughed. There you go, Belinda. You're no more special than me. I took screenshots and moved to stage 2 of my plan. I asked to meet Churritos and immediately he agreed. Then I also messaged Belinda and told her Churritos was cheating. At first she wouldn't believe me, but I told her where I was meeting him. She said she'd be there. Ah, sweet success. I couldn't help feeling overjoyed. The next day, I texted Churritos and Belinda to make sure they were both coming. I had decided to call them to the very park they betrayed me in. When they saw each other there, the looks on their faces were priceless. Churritos tried to make up a story, but Belinda showed him the screenshots I'd sent her. There was no escaping this. Churritos almost looked like he was about to cry, and Belinda looked like she would make him. I sat behind the tree laughing. I could hear her yelling all the way from where I was hiding. Life was good. That's what you get for humiliating me, Belinda. But the very next second, the most horrible thing happened. 2 police officers approached me and asked if I was Valerie. I said yes with a shaking voice. One of the officers started reading out my Miranda rights. I was shocked. What was this all about? I had done nothing wrong. The commotion also attracted Churritos and Belinda's attention. They stopped fighting and came over to see what was happening. It was just my luck that they saw I was getting arrested. I kept asking what I'd done wrong, but the cops said they had to escort me to the police station where they would call my parents and explain everything. I was scared to death as I got into the police car. I swear I saw Belinda and Churritos laughing. I wanted to cry. Once we got to the police station and my parents had arrived, looking totally confused and anxious, the chief investigator told us that they had convicted a serial offender who they had been looking for several months. It turned out he used fake internet IDs to scam people. They had reverse tracked his fake IDs to my account. They were arresting me for assisting a federal criminal, and I would have to appear before a judge. I was horrified. My mom was so embarrassed that she started crying on the spot. Dad just stood there silently in shock. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me whole. My life was over. I was going to be thrown in prison. The idea of the cold, dark walls of a prison cell made me want to puke. I started shaking and crying uncontrollably. Mom asked the police chief to let me go, but he said there was nothing he could do. When we appeared before the judge, our lawyer advised us to plead guilty to all the felonies I had committed. Since I was underage, they couldn't send me to prison, and I was so thankful. The police said that they were going to take down all of my accounts and I would have to repay the victims. I thought I had earned some really decent cash, and not only did it get taken away, but also my parents had to pay extra fees for the lawyer and court expenses. My dad didn't speak to me for an entire week, and Mom locked herself in her room and cried her eyes out. At school the next week, I tried to keep my head down, but there was no escaping Belinda. Seeing me at the park, she had obviously put two and two together and understood I was behind her and Churrito's fight. So she even forgave him. But me? Everyone was whispering about me. At lunch, Belinda the demon came up to me and said, "Valerie, you're pathetic. First, you make fake accounts, then you get involved with criminals?" I wanted to shout back at her and tell everyone she was a fake too, but I was too scared to even try now. I snuck around in the shadows all day, hoping no one would see me. Sometimes I went to the park to cry. I was devastated. I just didn't understand why all this was happening to me. One day, as I sat crying under a tree, I heard a voice. And I almost jumped out of my skin. I swear if it was Belinda, I was going to punch her. But it turned out to be Geeky Freddy. He asked me if I was okay. I sniffed and rolled my eyes at him. After everything that was happening, did he expect me to be okay? Suddenly, he just started laughing. That's it. I couldn't punch Belinda, but this geek was getting his butt kicked. I was about to jump to my feet when he said, "Valerie, you're better than that. You don't need to fake your life to be successful. You can study and work hard and prove to all those people that you're more than just a pretty face." I stared at him with narrowed eyes. "You think I'm pretty?" He went bright red and said he'd had a crush on me for years. I was shook. Then he quickly changed the topic and said he'd show me something I wouldn't believe. His Instagram account, it had more than 50,000 followers. And it was about science. He jokingly told me to stalk his account when I had time, and left. That night, I couldn't get Freddy out of my head. I deleted Churrito's number from my phone. I never wanted to speak to him again. And then I was about to text Freddy on Insta when my parents suddenly burst into my room. They were shaking with anger and said they'd spoken to the school and found out I hadn't applied to college at all. They said they worked so hard for me to go to school and I was doing all these crazy things for some cash. I was so embarrassed. They did have a point. I tried to apologize, but they were crazy mad at me. I heard my mom crying herself to sleep, and my dad just kept slamming doors. I knew I had to make it up to them, but how? I texted Freddy for ideas, but he said he was busy and would talk to me later. I was disappointed. I thought we were becoming friends, but when I got to school, I saw something that made my jaw drop. All over the hallway at school were photos from Belinda's Insta account, and they said fake on them in red ink. I knew Belinda would think I'd done it, but I didn't even care. I later learned from my friends that Churritos broke up with her after her reputation went south. I didn't feel the least bit of sympathy. They well deserved each other. Turns out it had been Freddy. And when I saw him at lunch that day, I literally threw myself at him and hugged him. Everyone had been laughing at Belinda. She was no better than me. Freddy just laughed and said he hated to see me so hurt and that Belinda deserved it. 6 months later, my life is finally on the right track. I studied really hard with Freddy after school for my SATs and did a restaurant job on the side to save up for college. And finally, I'm in. And my parents couldn't be prouder. Freddy the genius is off to med school, but I still get to see him every day, because we are dating now. Guess what I'm studying? I'm doing a degree in business. I figured I really have a flair for selling and marketing things to people. After all, I did manage to run a business successfully when I was only 14.
Wow, so that was pretty interesting. Remember guys, if you like that video, just remember to smash that like button down below, and while you're doing that, make sure you subscribe.
Thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes.
Okay, hold on. Sorry about that. YouTube is weird. The link to the original video is in the description. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!